Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're calling in from. Thank you for chatting in the chat and letting us know where you are. We are very excited that you're here today for the live event, the HAM Command Center, Hardware Asset Workspace, and Asset Task Automation. We have a lot to dive into today, so let's get started. But before we do, if this is your first live event, welcome. We hope you find it very informative. And if you've been to others, welcome back. You use your phone to scan this QR code or go to our community page where you can find many more live events for HAM or for any other ServiceNow product that you might have. And there'll be a similar question and answer format for you. So the link will be shared in today's chat. And please, we hope to see you at other ones. So all the information today is privileged and confidential. So please keep that in mind. And there may also be forward-looking statements in nature, which are covered by our safe harbor notice. This is also on our community page if you want a further reminder, but things are subject to change. All right. So we're excited about today's live event. The goal of these live events is for you to deploy, adopt, and achieve value more quickly. And we put these on because we're able to have firsthand input from our ITAM BU team, key individuals who are building the product and here to help you better understand certain aspects. Today's host. So my name is Michael Scognamilio. I am a ITAM outbound product manager focused on hardware asset management. And I'm joined by Abhi Roy, who will be doing some backup and behind the scenes. He is also an outbound product manager focused on cloud insights. Our guest today, we're very excited to be speaking with Michael Smith. He is a senior principal product manager. He's on the hardware asset management product, and he is our go-to expert on all things hardware asset management. Michael, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So for today's session, we are going to quickly review hardware asset management very quickly, make sure we're all on the same page on what we're talking about today, before we move into the concept of workspaces as a command center for an asset manager. We're going to go into the platform and look at a demo there as well to get a sense of all the workspaces that are available to you now with the Utah release. And lastly, we're going to talk about the asset task automation function and how that can also make the life of an asset manager very much easier. As always, please submit your questions in the Q&A form in the Zoom chat below. You can also use the chat box for any comments, but we'd prefer if all of your questions are in the Q&A. We will be answering them at the end of the recording. Let's stay focused. Let's contribute what you know. Like I said, use the chat feature if something makes you think of something else, and share it with the group. And please fill out our post-event survey. Your feedback is really vital to making these successful. So without further ado, I would like to talk about hardware asset management. So Michael, can you set the stage for us? What is HAM briefly, and what's unique about the Now platform?
Sure. So hardware asset management is a series of features that will help you manage the full life cycle of your organization's hardware assets. A lot of organizations focus on just configuration management, but we extend that through really the procurement and the start of the asset lifecycle, all the way through the disposal end of the lifecycle, giving you a clear visibility into your asset estate and having that awareness. So at any point during that asset lifecycle, you'll be able to know where your assets are, who has them, what you paid for them, that just base financial data, the location data, and all that information that can support the configuration data that's being stored in the CMDB. And it really helps the entire platform by having this core data.
All right, thank you. And Michael, sometimes we, there is confusion if we're talking about the base asset management or hardware asset management in particular. Maybe you can help us understand with this quick slide.
Absolutely. And for those that aren't aware, so hardware asset management is a scoped application. It's scoped by subscription units. If you are a base ITSM customer, if you're using incident, change, configuration management, or if you're a CSM customer, you'll have access to what we call base asset management. It's a very, it's really a data model for you to store your asset model records. There are some functionality with like transfer orders and purchase orders and stuff like that. But all the automation, what really sets Hardware Asset Manager or HAM apart, is it takes all that the core platform functionality and expands it into these asset records. Introduce automation through our different lifecycle flows. We have normalization, so your data will now be clean. And then with that automation in our flows, it'll stay relevant and accurate throughout the lifecycle of the assets. And then we have a lot of other features. We have a new release every 6 months that's loaded with features. So every new release, we're bringing on new features. We just added some new dashboards and some new workspaces that we'll be talking to in a second. But that's really the key difference is you're getting a base data model with the standard ITSM asset management. And then you're getting all the features and automation with our hardware asset management application.
Fantastic, Michael. Thanks for walking through the difference. And I know we might have a mix of people on this call. Some are who are interested in hardware asset management, some who have hardware asset management. So of course,
Sure.
Please be sure to speak with your representatives after the call if you have any further questions on that.
And with our products, HAM is not really an isolated scoped application that just a certain group or certain person in the organization will use. There are going to be many inputs into this data set. Many people will rely on it. Many people will update it. Many people will act on it. So our core personas that we built this project around are our inventory managers and our asset managers. But we also have to consider our model managers, our contract managers, our procurement managers, people that are doing incident and change management, right, are all going to have their hand and their focus on this data. So it's one of those cool features that by maturing this part of your platform, it'll instantly improve the entire platform across the board, even HR.
That's fantastic, Michael. And that's a perfect segue as we move ahead here to the workspaces. So Michael brought up personas, right? And that's, something that we think about very frequently as we're designing the product and updating the releases. Beginning with our San Diego release, ServiceNow began introducing the concept of workspaces, or these intuitive, streamlined user interfaces that empower the asset manager with, 360-degree visibility and quick information. With each release since San Diego, we've added additional workspaces that cover inventory or model management or other topics to help asset managers surface insights, isolate and resolve incidents across their entire estate. And like I said, give them full visibility that allows them to take a 10,000-foot view or dive deep to quickly diagnose something. With Utah, we added our 8th and final workspace with the most recent Utah release. That workspace is procurement. And so Michael and I thought, what better time to set aside a session to walk through these workspaces. Michael, anything that I missed on this?
No, you covered it. I might not have used the word final there because you never know. I mean, for now, we don't have anything in the agenda, but you never know when a new feature or a new workspace could pop up.
Yes, of course, that's definitely true. And I've joked with Michael that these workspaces are like the Thanos Infinity Stones that give an asset manager absolute power over their estate. The analogy does start to fall apart with the universe destroying part. So we don't really make that analogy, but this should be considered like each workspace is an additional piece of powerful, visualizations that you can use to be more successful and powerful at your job.
Agreed. And with this approach with this UI, for those who've been around ServiceNow for a while, when I first started with ServiceNow, you had to get to know the nav pane. Right. You had to get to know how to search for different things. Now everything is at your fingertips, which makes life a lot easier for the day in a life. You spend less time looking for things and bookmarking things and creating all these list views and filters and all these widgets, and everything's right there to act on.
Exactly. So here is a screenshot. So before we had a visualization of a command center, I believe that was an actual NASA command center. And that's the way that we envision, our product working for the asset manager, that full visibility. Here's what it looks like in practice when you log into your ServiceNow Hardware Asset Management workspace. You'll see this tab on the left. Each of these tabs corresponds to a different workspace. Now we have Michael Smith today too. We're going to actually log into the demo and quickly review each of these, so you'll have a better understanding of what the fundamental or what the key pieces in each of these tabs is. But this is what it would look like when you log into your incident, or when the asset manager at your organization would log in. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Michael Smith. to share his screen.
All right. Confirm that you can see my hardware asset overview page.
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. So with our workspaces, now you can come in any workspace that you're assigned to, whether it's the asset executive dashboard, which is not covered today, but this is a good one to know if you're a ham or SAM customer. You'll be able to see executive related reports and widgets here. One of the nice things with these workspaces is it's a lot of it's based on your access and roles. So if you have proper ACLs, you'll be able to see things, and we give basic transparency to a lot of reports. So a lot of our job as an asset manager is to provide reports for people that can now get them themselves. They can come in and pull the information they need. So the first highlight of this entire workspace concept is transparency. So I just want to do a quick overview. This is our splash page. This is the hardware asset overview page. And I want to talk to some basic functionality that's repeated in our other workspaces. So in this workspace here, in the very top bar here, and it's a collapsible ribbon. If you don't want to see that, you don't have to, but I would start here every day. This is our important action. So we've configured, and you're not always going to see all of them. And you can see in this carousel, you can continue to scroll through all your different important actions. What these are is we're letting some AI do a little bit of the analysis for you. And this is going to bring to light anything that is critical, whether it's a data issue. For example, here, I've got a missing model number, and I can jump into any of these cards and see. So I've got, 126 of my models are missing a useful life date. Not the most urgent thing, but missing a model number, that's critical. So I could jump in here and it takes me right to a list view. One of the things you may have noticed is I didn't lose my place in my last page. It creates a new tab in the platform, not a new tab in my browser, but a new tab right here. So I can just pop in here and do my work and then go back to what I was doing before and not have to go to history. So once again, it's very intuitive, very easy to use. And you're going to see here at the top of each card for the hardware asset overview, which workspace these cards came from. So you can see you've got your model management, you've got asset estate. So this is a collection of all the important action cards that will be repeated in the other section, but this is being your one-stop shop. This will be able to see things that are due. These important action cards we've made, I've lost count with how many we've made. In most cases, you'll never see every important action card we've configured. If there's a custom field that you guys have created, you can work with your sysadmins and they can make a custom action card for you. Keep in mind, these views here are kind of locked down because we want it to be a repeatable experience for everyone in your organization. But if you need to do any customization or configuration, you can do that with your sysadmin team. The section here is our quick link section. So this is kind of our working section. And you can see here that there's these filter pills here. So I can filter this dashboard by location, by a stock room, by a specific model category. Say I'm part of the server team. I don't care about laptops. I don't care about mobile phones. I can go and I can pick what type of assets that I want to see the reporting on here. So within this quick links here, I've got, instant visibility and drillable reports for all my major actions around assets. I can see what my normalization percentage is, which is great. 94% is usually what we want to get to after a couple months of firing up the product. We can see all the active requests that are in play. I can see how many transfer orders are going back and forth, how many stock orders have been requested, loaner reservations, RMAs, tech refresh requests, disposal orders. Everything is at my fingertips. And if I can kind of decide what I'm going to do today, right? I can say, you know what? I need to get these disposal orders sorted out. And I can drill into my disposal orders here. And I have a list view and a stage for all my different disposal orders, which is really nice. And then I've got my 360 asset view here. This in each of these sections is going to contain some really industry standard KPIs and some best practice metrics that we've included to help you ensure that your assets are either doing what you need them to do or the data is reporting properly. For example, here we've got just some general counts and lifecycle states. But one of these that are really important is looking at what my overview is on my asset lifecycles. So I can see what percentage of my assets are in end of support and need to be taken offline, so on and so forth. I can also see with this report here, assets that are being discovered but shouldn't, right? So I've got 18 computers, for example, that are being discovered, but are in a state and substate that shouldn't be discovered. They could either be retired, they could potentially be on order, and we haven't made those critical asset updates to reflect the proper state, but discovery is coming back and saying, no, this is plugged in, it's connected, it's being used, it shouldn't be being used. And then the same is true on the inverse, right? These are undiscovered assets that are in an in-use state. So that tells me they're either not online, they're not being connected, they're not being used, or maybe they don't have an agent, or they're not on the right IP that's being picked up. So just some good stuff for us to help maintain that health of the dashboard. Now, as we walk through the other workspaces, the first place we start is the inventory workspace. You'll see here, there's list views that I can drill into for all my inventory related items. If I want to fire up a new asset audit, I can click a button here and dive right into the audit process within 2 clicks. And then I've got my important action cards for inventory related items. I have my, different tasks that are related for inventory right there. And this is definitely one that's nice because I want to, filter this by a specific stockroom. This is the stockroom I work in. I don't care about the rest of the stockrooms. I'm working this stockroom. So I can see my rules for this stockroom here, or I can clear this filter out if I want to see the entire organization stockrooms. And I can see what stock rules have been configured. My loaners, I can see, I've got some loaners that are overdue. And I can, once again, like with any of these reports, I can dive right in and I can see, okay, these are supposed to be returned 2-3 weeks ago. So now I've got that visibility into that asset should be sitting on the shelf. We need to reclaim it from that end user. I can drill into the loaner tasks and start getting that asset back. So once again, a couple different clicks will get you right into work as intended with these dashboards. And then we have the asset estate. This is really our main asset repository for all things asset. And this will include, our hardware assets, our consumable assets. If we have bundles, something new that's coming in our Utah release, which this is a Utah instance, is the concept of pallets. So I can manage my assets from a palletized level here as well. And then I can see all asset tasks that are currently open and active in my organization. And I can filter by what type of tasks they are, who they're assigned to, and just go there with the list views. So it's really nice. So for my asset estate, once again, you've got your actions to clean the data. I've got my quick links for, some really good KPIs to measure my asset health. So all my work is now going to be here. I'm no longer going to be fumbling through a navigation pane. I'm going to be able to, dive right in and get to work. And when we talk about, ITAM in hardware assets specifically, if the data isn't accurate, there is a lot of confidence that gets lost in the quality of the data, and people will stop using it and stop caring about ITAM. So we have these different reports and widgets that let me know how many computers have incomplete records. And we've selected a handful of fields that we consider important. Your organization may consider other fields important, and you can update this with the help of a sysadmin. But different things like this is helpful. Also, being able to show that relationship between assets and incidents is very helpful. So I can look here and I can see that this specific asset has had 25 incidents. Maybe it's time we stop fixing this and replace it. So now we can actually take this asset data that we've curated, that we've cleaned through normalization, that we've maintained through our different data cleanup activities and our analysis that's performed with these dashboards, and we can actually start making some really good decisions based on this data, which is really cool. And then if I need to create a new asset, I got a little button up here I can click and I can drill in and create a new asset based on what type of asset I want to create. So very cool, very cool. Then we have a model management section. So this is very important as a cornerstone of our asset data set. We have to have a very well-maintained model data set. So we help you out with normalization, right? But also as you're creating new models, as we're, discovering new models, maybe we have integrations with procurement systems. All of that is managed here in this workspace. So I can see all my different hardware, consumable, bundle models, contract models, and software models as well. If I'm not using SAM. are located in here. And then, you get your different model related tasks right here. So I can see how many hardware models are going to be needing to be replaced this year. How many consumable models need to be replaced this year because they're no longer available to buy or they're no longer being supported. And I can see when my next content refresh is coming. So I may be looking to buy a new model that just came out today. And I look in here and I have a feature I'll talk to in a moment and I can't find it in here. Now I know when my next content update comes. And every week you'll get a new batch of freshly curated content data with normalized manufacturers and models and life cycle dates. This dashboard here helps you manage that and see when it's coming in. And then I can see any of my models, manufacturers, or model numbers that are missing. These aren't going to give me good normalization results. If I don't have the data, I can't normalize a blank field. It's already normalized, it's blank. So we can't help you with that. And then you can dive into your metrics. You can see what's been normalized. And then you can see what's also not being normalized. And this gets sent back anonymously with the content service. So our content team will work on this anonymous file to make sure we've got the best coverage as possible. And then we can look at your overall statuses of some statistics around your normalization, which is really cool. So I'm seeing a lot of questions come in. I'm going to hold those to the end, and we'll do kind of a live Q&A session unless I organically come across the topic in one of these sessions.
And one thing, Michael, is right now we're going through dummy data, through a demo dashboard. But of course, some of this data in the real world, you would see dramatically larger numbers or this and that. Do you want to speak to that really quickly in terms of how an asset manager might be dealing with hundreds of thousands of assets in this regard?
Oh yeah, I mean we have a couple of customers that have over 1 million assets today. So obviously these numbers will vary by your instance. Ours is a very generic set of dummy data. We don't have any live integrations. So you're going to see more content in your instances as you guys implement them. But yeah, that's that.
Makes sense.
Yep. So that's the model management section here, and we do have some other workspaces that I just want to kind of talk to at a real high level here. First and foremost, what I was just mentioning is we actually have a content lookup portal. If you're also a SAM customer as well, you'll see SAM content in here. This is basically a very easy to use search that allows me to search any product in our content library to see if it exists. You may be thinking about buying something and you want to look at some of the lifecycle information. You'd be able to search our content service here. We're closing in on over 3 million models in our content service. It makes it hard to sift through a table. So we've given this really elegant search option here to do that. And you can search by product or model. We've also introduced the procurement workspace. So this is all things really financial related to your assets. Lets me see what purchase orders are in play and all my different source requests that I need to source. And just some kind of base statistics about spend, what I'm spending by vendor. And then I have a contract workspace that came out in the previous release. This is similar thread. This is all things contracts. So it allows you to proactively manage all the different types of contracts you can see up here on the top that you're managing, that you may be associating assets to specific maintenance contracts or lease contracts. And, you can dive into all that information here on the contract. And then we have another section called asset operations. And this is really a bunch of different asset related list views that don't really fit into any of the other workspaces that allow you to, and this is something normally only the asset managers would see. Most end users wouldn't see this, but this allows you to go in and create your stock rules, look at all your different stock orders, stuff like that. But that's essentially it. Those are the workspaces in a nutshell. I do want to grab a couple questions in chat because they are kind of relevant to what we're talking about. The first one is the procurement workspace only available if the procurement plugin is enabled? That workspace, and these workspaces are available in our base asset product as well, but they're just not going to have as many widgets and features. It'll be a very limited version of this, but the procurement workspace is part of the HAM product. HAM comes with a procurement. There is another application at ServiceNow called PSM, Procurement Service Management. which is really taking this to a whole nother level, really kind of acting as a full procurement tool that we work very well. It's built off of the same foundational data model. It just has a lot more features. So that's kind of from a procurement and contract standpoint, these are going to be standard as second you turn on HAM. And then we're not going to be demoing the configuration or creation of it. And that's a sysadmin function. That's something that a certified sysadmin would need to show you, and you would pick that up in our sysadmin training. That's more of a technical thing. And then we are going to be walking through. I have a question here about working through a complete flow or a task. We will be talking about one specific task, but we also have other webinars. I would recommend checking our community because we have demoed our different tasks, all of our different tasks in the past. And then the other question about ACC, the discovery tool, we will not be covering that. That's an ITAM feature that won't be covered as part of this demo. And back to you, Michael. I just wanted to do a little bit of housekeeping on our questions because it's great response. I'm glad that you guys are engaged in chatting with us.
Fantastic. And I just popped in the chat. That link is way longer than I intended. So hopefully that directs everyone to the right place, which is the community page with recordings available for you across hardware, all of the ITAM products and all ServiceNow products as well. We try and keep that up to date. So you can have access to these and can rewatch them as frequently as you'd like. So that was fantastic. Thank you, Michael. I could totally envision an asset manager, getting a cup of coffee, logging in for the day and going to this dashboard and just assessing the landscape and giving them that peace of mind that they have all this data at their fingertips. That was a really thorough overview. I'm going to go back to my screen. Okay, so we've spoken about the workspaces as a command center, right? And again, that is to give the asset manager peace of mind and empower them. I think when we were thinking about what to include in this live event, it seemed like a natural pairing to consider the asset task automation feature in hardware asset management. Michael and I were talking about how asset task automation is kind of like the rocket fuel for your HAM program, because it dramatically reduces human intervention. As an asset manager, that's exactly what you're looking for, right? You don't want to rely on people who are not asset managers to be, doing asset manager-esque things. ServiceNow can fill that gap. So obviously, an asset manager relies on an entire fleet of non-asset managers to handle the assets in the real world. With asset task automation, we're ensuring that asset updates are made automatically as asset handlers are executing their tasks and working through incidents. So it automates the updates to assets or CIs on existing tickets to remove that operational burden and risk from human intervention. So whether it's a new hardware request or a disposal order or a stock order, the asset manager should be able to rest assured that their CMDB will accurately reflect their asset estate. Michael, anything you'd like to add to this before we jump in and show what this looks like in the platform?
I'm going to share a little bit of the genesis on why we did this, right? One of the scariest things for an asset manager is when our assets fly off from the nest, right? We do a great job of creating our asset records, making sure all the data is accurate. When it's in inventory, we're managing them very well. But the second a technician, whether it's somebody rack and stacking a server, somebody doing a loaner, someone doing a break fix, goes and grabs that asset off the shelf, we're entrusting in them for them to do the right thing from an ITAM perspective. And anyone that's been in asset management knows that look you get from the service desk when you walk into that room and they all hunker down under their cubicle so they can't be bothered. And they know you're going to come up and say, hey, you deployed 10 laptops last week and only assigned one. I need you to, I've got all these assets that show that they're still on the shelf, but they're being discovered. And I know you worked the ticket for these users. That goes away. We wanted to make ITAM a behind the scenes update and ensure for us that the assets are being updated, but it also helps these technicians because all they now have to do is close the tasks and the asset updates get made. And then now they can be confident when they walk into that stock room and see there's 10 assets in stock that they're there. but that someone didn't deploy them and forget to update them. And then now we're talking about saving maybe 5 to 10 minutes on every single incident, because they don't have to go in and look up the assets in another system. So once again, having everything in one platform makes it very simple. So that's for me the reason why I love this feature and these flows, because it takes the human error, the human the human involvement of making these updates out the window.
That's great. I love that anecdote. I'm sure that resonates with a lot of people. Fantastic.
Yep. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the screen share here, and I'll go ahead and show you what we're working on. Let me know if you can see an incident record on your screen.
Yes.
Okay, so this is an example of an incident manager opens up a ticket. They see here that we have an incident for a cracked screen. So we know it's going to take too long to fix that screen. This user has a project that's due at the end of the day. We need to get them a new laptop, get it up and running. So I come down into the asset form here, and I can see here that this is the CI that was collected when the incident came in. So I now know that this incident for this user here has a MacBook Pro 15-inch. So I went in and I went to my stock room and I found and double checked. It says it's here and it's there that this stock room is this asset is in the warehouse. So I can go ahead and ensure and I can add it. So what I would simply do now is I would go back into the incident record. And I can come down here and I can decide, okay, we need to do a swap for this person. So I can come down here in the asset action and actually pick swap. So that's my option. And then I would simply come in here and I would select that unit or that device. And I have to come in here and I have to do a little bit of searching to find it, right? And I would come in here and I would search for the name is, oops. And I would come down here and I would search. I could search by location. I could search by state. I can add more items to the search. I can go in here and then filter. And I want to find the specific one. So I'm going to search for. I'm going to search for that particular one. That was, I believe it was a 2022. But I can grab any of these really for the sake of this demo. And we're going to go ahead and grab the asset that we're going to swap it with. And I'm simply going to resolve the ticket. So then I would come in here to the resolution. I've now decided that this is the bad laptop. We're going to swap it with this laptop. I can come in here and I can put in my resolution code. So for this one here, it's solution provided. I can resolve by just Abraham Lincoln here and the date and time it was resolved. And I can put in any notes here if I wanted to, and then simply click resolve. So now I've resolved this incident and I can pass the laptop over to the new user. The old laptop is now going back into inventory. And I can go into confirm, and I actually pulled up this record here. I can go right from the incident as well if I want to see it from the incident. But we can look at, this was the original asset that was defective, that was cracked. And it's in the works. I got it in the old view here. But I can see here now that it's in stock and it's pending disposal. And if actually I prefer to look at it from the workspace view. Apologies for that. I can come in here and I can search for the asset record. And I can see the history of the asset. So I can come in here, I can search for all assets. We can go ahead and do a filter. And shoot, apologies.
It's a little plug for the difference between going to a workspace view versus going directly into one of the tabs.
Yeah, it does take some getting used to. But hold on. I forgot what the asset tag was here. So now this was the asset that we just took back. The thing that I want to highlight, and something that was new in the workspace view that you don't get in the classic view, which is what I was in, unfortunately, is now I get the activity trail right here. So you can see here, these are all the asset updates that happen just by resolving the task. And then I can also take a look at the asset lifecycle, and I can see that this asset was involved in an incident. So if, Abraham Lincoln, the technician that did that, left this on a table in the common room, who knows what happened to it? I can walk up, I can scan it, I can look up the asset, and I can see, okay, it's part of this incident. And I could drill right into that incident record and see here what was done. And the beauty of it is when I come in and I look at this incident and open it up, I can see all the history. Everything is linked together, and then I can come down and I can see the new asset that was swapped for it. How it was done and everything that happened as part of it. So everything is in one easy to use space. And then if more incidents start occurring against this would report in our incident versus assets. So but yeah, that's kind of the idea. So as I did the work, the updates just happen in the background. Now, if there was software installed on this asset, if there were any software entitlements associated with it, those would be moved over to the new asset. Any contracts that might have been associated would have been moved over as well as the asset updates get made. And then you can see it's no longer assigned to that end user. All that got wiped out. So makes it very, very easy.
That's fantastic. Michael, we got a couple questions in the chat itself on some of the demo that you were working on. Yep. I can read one. So, Jared mentions that their CI can sometimes be a bit of a mess. Do you have to trust the asset tag of the machine?
No. I used asset tag just for my options. You can use the display name. You could use the serial number, whatever unique identifier, because in most cases you're going to have that asset in front of you, so you'll have access to all those informations as well.
Great. Makes sense. And Garrett wants to know, why wasn't the stockroom required to be updated for the device going back to stock for the asset swapped out?
So that's a great question. So one of the new things that we're actually working on is so today, if I call in for Michael, I work in the DC area, but Michael's in the San Francisco area, but Michael's laptop's bad. He needs me to request a ticket. So now that the request is associated to me, it's associated to my location. If my location doesn't have a stockroom, I wouldn't want to put that asset directly back into my stockroom because Michael's in San Francisco. So we leave that open. Stockroom is a mandatory field. So if I want to make any updates, I have to go in and assign that. We do have a feature coming in our next release called service locations. So now you'll be able to tie locations that will automatically populate to the stockroom that's associated to the location that the user is associated to. So today you have to manually update it. In 6 months, the system will update it for you.
Awesome.
Yep.
And it looks like one more question here is, can you see if asset incidents occur around a particular user?
Should we see how many assets about?
Or can you see if asset incidents occur around a user?
Yeah, you would search the incident. There's an incident workspace. I think that there's a widget that shows incidents by that, or you can just filter and search by users in the incident area.
Filter and search by users. That makes sense. All right. And then I guess here for the asset swap option, you need to use CI. Did that question make sense to you, Michael?
Yeah, you can modify the form to look up asset as well, similar to what Enterprise Asset does. You can look up the CI. The CI and the asset records are related. Normally, when somebody is doing incident or change management, they're really focused on the CI, not the asset. But if you want to see that in your view, that's something that you could change individually. There is a
All,
question. So two quick questions. One around this automation that I showed is a ham feature. It's not part of the base ITAM. And one thing that's constantly confusing is somebody asked if between ham and ham pro. Um, we call it ham, hardware asset management. We don't use the thought of pro. We only have one product. We have base asset management, which is part of your ITSM license, which is that data model that we spoke to earlier. And then we have hardware asset management, which really manages the whole life cycle. So I
yeah,
know that can get confusing.
that's that triangle slide from earlier, like you referenced. Thanks, Michael.
Yep.
We have a question here. Is there an easy way to update multiple assets from a lifecycle management, i.e. 100 laptops and swapping out?
So some of our processes are scalable. So we want to get out of the habit of being data managers and doing manual updates and let the process do the updates like I showed you there. So, normally when you find that I need to make a bulk update of 100 assets, and there is a way to do it. There is a UI action that allows you to edit. Just like in the classic view, you could select an entire, you could filter a list and then select one column, and then all the assets, you could update that one field to the same value in all that columns. But we try to let the process do the updates. Now, for the example of a refresh, you can do 100 refresh assets in one request. And as those assets get deployed, and as those assets really move through the process, right, from being from an inventory to getting prepared and deployed and being received, sometimes sourced, there's going to be updates that happen at each part of that life cycle. So as the work gets done, the updates happen rather than having to go back in. Because normally when I hear about bulk updates, you'll get someone that says, yeah, we have a spreadsheet. So at the end of the week, when we have a list, these are all the assets that we deployed and who we deployed them to. We need an easy way to enter that data. And the answer is create a task for it. We have a workflow that will do those updates for you as you deploy it. As the person that does the work gets the task assigned to them and then gets credit for the work, the updates just happen in the background. And then there's no need for updates. There's no need for out of time data. There's no need for, human error. Maybe we accidentally scan the number, and, all this stuff happens in real time as the tasks are executed. And there was a question too around where can I see a list of pending tasks? So based on, is it just a general asset task? These are all right here. If it's specific to inventory related tasks, you'll see those here in the inventory workspace. Or if you want to just see all your asset tasks in the asset estate, we have a list of all the active asset tasks. It's an unfiltered list. Like I said, if you just cared about, if you don't care about contracts, you can filter those out. And then look at, you don't care about, like I said, you don't care about these, so I can filter these out. Maybe I'm just concerned about reclamation tasks, so I can just get all my reclamation tasks right here. And these are all active, all in time right here. So very, very, very
Awesome.
easy. And I don't know if you addressed it, but it looks like some people are getting errors when they try to click on the link to the community.
Yep, we fixed that.
I do know you have to be logged into the community as well.
Yeah. All right.
And Michael, when it comes to generic computers, these are like if you build your own computers or clone PCs, they don't get discovered in the same way. They won't be normalized. We don't really, they'll be discovered the way they get discovered. So it's really up to the ITAM team to classify them and come up with identification rules for those devices.
Yep. A couple more questions here. Andre wants to know that if location can be a viewable column when searching for assets to swap.
So that is part of what I was speaking to earlier when we introduced the concept of, and this is coming in our Vancouver release. Normally we don't talk about roadmap functionality, but this is a very specific and often requested use case. So I'm going to kind of talk outside the lines here. That's something that when you go to do a swap, it'll only show the assets that are available to the person based on their location. So that will kind of resolve itself with our service location features as well.
Awesome. A question here from Shauna. Is there a reason that affected CI's related list doesn't automatically have asset action and swapped CI values automatically?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yep.
go ahead.
So those columns have to be added because those views are custom to the organization. Not every organization uses that feature. So that doesn't automatically, we can't influence other products to show things, right? So because ITSM owns those columns, and it's in our basic documentation. When you set it up, you do have to add those two columns. And what she's referring to is when we were in, I'm just going to jump back to the incident record here, and it's probably going to take me to classic view. Okay. But these columns here aren't there out of the box. So there's a little widget here and you can pick, and there's like a dozen columns. So if I wanted to, add the date applied to it, you would just add it, click OK. It's the same thing in the classic view, the workspace view as well, for me to see that record. But yeah, that if you want to add, you have to add that to there. It doesn't exist automatically. In most cases, the sysadmins would go in and add it natively for everybody's view.
Thank you. I also wanted to address a wonderful question by Masana here, which is how would you recommend someone new to asset management start off introducing asset management to his or her organization? So not only is the asset manager new to the asset management space, but the organization does not have a formal process. I love that question. That's a super meaty question that I think, we can have a whole nother live event about. And in fact, I did link to you one of our first HAM live events in kind of a spiritual series called just Modern Principles for IT Asset Management with HAM. I think this will help anybody get a good understanding of, who are the stakeholders that are valuable in an organization to get on board, and kind of the early setup of hardware asset management. Michael, anything else you wanted to add to that?
No, we have tons of resources, and always, reach out to your account team. We could have deeper conversations with you. We have teams that are built to address that, answer those questions, and really help you get your journey started.
But that's a great question. One more question. Okay, so this is a bit of an EAM HAM question, so it might not be relevant for this call. Around differentiating for a healthcare environment, the laptops for HAM, but for a separate table instead of having EAM. Michael, is any thoughts on that question, or that a question for a more of an EAM focused session?
Yeah, so a laptop is a laptop, and a laptop would live as a hardware asset. An enterprise asset is anything that's really not IT related. So from a platform perspective, and apologies too, I didn't notice all the questions that were happening in the chat, so I was only looking at the Q&A section. But when we're looking at that, when we're looking at our asset estate, right? And this is from the HAM point of view, I have a hardware asset section here. If I'm in the enterprise asset world, I'm only going to see my enterprise assets. So those are non-IT related assets. So understandably, there's, a healthcare, you may have an X-ray machine that has a small server attached to it. The server would not be considered an enterprise asset, but the rest of the X-ray machine would. So the actual IT hardware, we have customers that have HAM that can manage both in both systems. Then we have customers that just have EAM and not HAM that would track it as just a hardware asset and not have all the automation and functionality behind it, but they would have the same data model that you would get with just base ITSM. Because just like HAM, EAM requires you to have base ITSM as well. But all that, it would be discovered, it would be classified as a hardware asset. It wouldn't be classified. There's no discovery for enterprise. So it would be created as a HAM asset. If that makes sense.
Yes.
And in a lot of cases too, when that machine breaks down, the person that can come fix it can fix the X-ray machine, but they may not know how to add more RAM to the server. They may not know how to, or expand the disk space or troubleshoot the server. So a lot of cases, IT will come out and only touch the hardware, the IT hardware. Maybe it's not connecting to the network. It's different things like that. So you'll have different personas working different tasks related to those systems as well. Yep. And based on your needs and requirements, the system's very easy to configure to make it work for you the way you need it to work.
A question from Timothy here. Is there an option to add asset task automation to a request item?
I guess I would need a little bit more So we have so our asset tasks that you saw were built against incident and change management. But as Michael shared in one of the original slides, we have a bunch of different request workflows. So we have, standard hardware request, bulk stock, refresh, lease, RMA, loaner. And as the tasks that are in those different workflows get executed, the assets get updated just like you saw there. If that makes sense.
Yes. Okay, Michael, I'm going through. I think we might have gotten all through all our questions. All right. Any other questions pop up? But that was an active Q&A session. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Juliana, Lillian. I saw some of our viewers also answering questions in the chat. So that was fantastic, and I appreciate all the questions. Of course, this recording will be available, and you can always use a community page for further engagement. All right, so there are a number of resources on our community page available to you for hardware asset management, setting up for success, things of that nature. So I encourage you all to review those resources. And on top of that, of course, the trainings that we offer, very helpful, especially for some of our audience members who are a bit more newer to hardware asset management. These will be invaluable to you and your organization. The community page, we love sending individuals to the community page. We're always developing the community page and making it more user-friendly. One thing that you'll notice right up front is a getting started guide and how to set up for success. I think that many people find that very useful, but of course, there's all the links to other things that we've spoken about today. So with that, a little music, a little send-off. Michael and I really appreciate your time. Thank you for joining. You'll find this recording in a couple of days, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.